Good morning or good afternoon to all of our Discovery Rangers on this podcast. Today we're going to talk about rope craft as the merit. We were working on it last week, and let's review some of the stuff. First of all, let's go over the parts of the rope that we maybe didn't cover last week. The end of the rope is at the end. This part here where it loops over and where it would actually engage what it was going to work on is called the bight. And then the rest of the rope is called the standing end. And so those are the three parts, and when we meet together again, we'll have a review on that. Now last week we also covered an easy knot here. It was called the figure 8, and that's used as a stopper knot and to keep things from sliding further down. Now, one thing we didn't have out last week was a larger manila type rope, and this one here shows that the end is all frayed out. And so when we get back together, we are going to work on learning how to whip the end of the rope. That's a little bit detailed, and I would like to be with you personally when we do that, and hopefully that will be sometime in the next couple of months. Now, one of the knots that we had discussed, but we didn't have all the things out about, was this here is the sheet bend. This is how we join a large rope to a small rope. And remember, we talked about the figure 8, and you can add a figure 8 onto the end to help make sure it doesn't slip off. So you can add one onto the other. So you got figure 8 here. We have the taut line hitch here. Excuse me, that is not correct. We have the sheet bend here, where a large rope is joined to the little rope. So last week we also talked about the square knot. And let's review that. We'll go over it again. Well, welcome. Here we're talking about square knot, and you can see we've gone and got two different color ropes, and this will help highlight the flow of the knot, and also the color contrast will help you see the critical parts about this knot. You can see here the white, how they're side by side to each other, and the yellow, how they're side by side. You can see each side is married together, and when you pull on them, you can see that what we would call the standing part, the long part on both, is on the same side. That is critical in a square knot for it to be tied correctly. Tie that one more time just to demonstrate. I have a hard time tying it wrong, because I have memorized tying it correctly. But so here's a granny knot. You can see how they're not side by side, and as you pull, they slip, especially in this synthetic. So let's make a slight, we're going to show the square knot again. And here we go. The white is side by side, the yellow is side by side, the short ends are on the same side, the long ends are on the same side, and as we pull, they lock up tight. And this is how you tie the same size diameter knots side by together to join two together, and this is an excellent knot for tying that. Now, I'm going to bring up another knot. Here's how you tie a small diameter knot with a rope with a large line. This will be useful if you're transferring a large line across, like when you're tying a rope bridge or something like that, or you're pulling a large line from the dock up to a boat or the opposite direction. You want to keep it out of the water. This is an excellent knot for that. This is called I'm going to look at my reference here. It's called a sheet bend. And you can see I've added right here
to keep it from moving through, if it had a lot of tension on it, this is called a figure 8 at the end, and it's called a stopper knot. And that keeps that from going any further. Now, these are the knots I'd like you guys to practice at home if you have rope available.
Now, one of the things we would like to talk to you about is where you could find a Bible verse that would talk about a rope. And so in the Old Testament, in Ecclesiastes, so this is your Bible verse for memorization this week, chapter 4, verse 12, it talks about if one can overpower him who is alone, two can resist him. A cord of 3 strands is not quickly torn apart. You can see that this particular rope right here, this is what we would consider a 3-strand rope. You can see if you had 1, you could maybe break that. At 2, maybe a little easier. But when you put 3 strands together, this rope is strong enough that I could actually hold myself up. This rope is rated at, all 300 and some pound of me could be on this rope and would hold me up. This is a very strong rope. That's today's minute.